and he's going to talk a little more on BIM maturity. So his paper is BIM in Ireland 2025. Progress is the 2019 benchmark. So I'll hand it over to you, Barry.
Yeah, how we're doing with the judging coordination and all that stuff. Yeah, your name comes up a lot. Hi everyone, sorry, my name's Barry McAuley, and that is not my presentation. That is. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to just start my watch Mary and get out of here in 10 minutes, okay?
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah. So my name's Barry McAuley. I am Head of Digital Construction and Geospatial Surveying at TU Dublin. So I look after all the programmes in that remit and the strategic direction. Working in a number of research-oriented projects in that space as well, including the Build Digital project as well as Construct Innovate and Horizon Europe kind of different projects. I suppose to give just a very brief overview of the purpose of this paper. And this is more of a paper, I think the paper is better than what the presentation would be, because the paper was designed in my headspace when I was doing my postdoc in 2017. We did a BIM in Ireland report, and then in 2019 we did a subsequent kind of report to update where we were in that. So I had this nice chronological kind of order of kind of Ireland's history from 13 to 19, and because I'm teaching in this area and lecturing, what I really wanted to do was try and document, okay, the last 6 years where we were, and it's more of a resource then to kind of provide to the students of, important publications and kind of, just monitoring where we are. So what we did originally was we applied these 5 macro modules, okay, which helped us understand exactly Ireland's BIM maturity in 2019. The findings ultimately say that there has been significant progress since then, but there are still considerable issues. And one of the biggest issues that we're facing is that we seem to have a lot of stuff in situ, but we don't have the people. Okay, and that seems to be coming out from everyone, and that's what these findings are saying. So just going back in here again, kind of giving you the context, in 2019, it was like a bit of a nirvana within the industry. We kind of had the embassy roadmap that was in situ, which was supposed to be the Bible. Then we had the release of the ISO 9650 standards had just come into place, and the Irish government had released in somewhat a kind of a strategy / mandate. So we all went into 2017-19 going, yay, we're going to fly. And then suddenly in 19 we fell off a cliff, if I'm being honest with you. Everything kind of, nothing happened. The roadmap wasn't funded, so it didn't kind of get the progression it did. The strategy from the government didn't actually come into place until 2024. So there was this big gap. So, and then we had COVID, and we had the materials kind of rise the prices in between all of this. One of the things that did start though in 2020 was the CSG, which is the Construction Sector Group, and they were put in place to help us formulate a roadmap in order to kind of integrate digital construction within the public sector. So I was interested going, okay, 2019 we were making progress, where are we 2025? So I couldn't apply the same model and go out and do the same, I just didn't have the time to do the same kind of study as the BIM maturity models. But what I did was I looked across all the literature and synthesized that with these models from 2019 to give a picture of where we are. So if we look up the first one in here, this is called our BIM maturity diffusion model, and it looks at 3 things: modeling, collaboration, integration across technology, process and policies. So back in 2019 we were very strong in the modelling. Processes were improving because the ISO 9650 came in, still in the low 40%, dreadful in policy, 0%. So I think since then there's been a nice kind of lift. We've had the National Annex that came in 2021, which has helped drive that forward. The ISO 9650 standards is now firmly in place, and the government has backed it as its mandate. In tandem with that, the Build Digital project is also saying that we have up to 60% of organisations that have used ISO 9650 in some context. And as well as that, we have, I think, 21 organisations that are now, ISO 9650 accredited through the NSAI. So David's actually doing another, I work with David as well on the research front, and he's doing another paper in this area that he's presenting on, and that's a really interesting one to read to see where we are and where we're going in that. But there are challenges. There are still skill gaps, financial constraints, and SME disparities remain the main challenges for BIM diffusion. And we'll look at that in a little bit more, what's been done in that and what needs to be done. The second one, so what I would say now, obviously looking at that and kind of obviously not having like for like, I would say there's been a nice grow in this, and the policy now is starting to kind of move into maybe 60-70%, but obviously we do need to see a lot more resources in place. Compared to the UK, we're miles behind in that kind of financial resource. Looking at the next one, what we looked at was the micro maturity component. So this looked at your different stages and kind of criteria in order to kind of really drive on. They came across objective stages and milestones, champion the drivers, and framework regulations. So apologies, I just want to get this out here because kind of just go over the 2017, what we had. For 2017, once again, where we were strong enough in certain areas such as champions and drivers, and that has increased with the likes of CSG. We were quite weak on measurement and benchmarks, and we were quite weak when it came to regulatory frameworks. Again, this has been addressed somewhat. The education space continues to grow. We have 3 masters now in this particular space in the area, as well as kind of a number of different subsidised funding through SkillNet, DABSI, Springboard. And we have a number of emerging champions, such as I said before, the CSG. And now the CSG has formed the likes of Build Digital and Construct Innovate. And these are 2 kind of key resources that have been put in place to help us drive on. So a lot of these have kind of really kind of drove on. For example, noteworthy publications. We've seen the likes of the RAI release. There is SESI guidance now. And most of the big organisations or kind of regulatory bodies have their own publication in this particular area. Technology infrastructure was always strong. It's brought a lot of foreign investment, and this has continued to grow. But more importantly, objectives and milestones and standard deliverables, these have been set now through our ISO 9650 mandate, which is in tandem, kind of supposed to be rolling in 4 years. So essentially that's our benchmark. Where I would like to know is what's the stick if we don't reach them. I'm not too sure if a project doesn't achieve it, what happens then? So that'll be the interesting part to see. Moving on to the third one, which is who's leading this? Is it government? Was it the kind of the SMEs on the ground, or was it the kind of larger contractors? Back in 2019, it was the larger contractors that was driving this. Now in 2025, I think it's fair to say that it's probably the government. I think once you have a mandate, you have a stick, and it's probably the government driving this. So what they have done is we put up some money. It's kind of pittance in terms of what the UK have, in terms of, like, I think it's 2.5 million behind Build Digital. The UK, you had probably 2.5 million for a generic idea, like, you know what I mean, that kind of, you bring it on a little bit. But we are where we are, and this is the nature of Ireland, and it's fabulous to even get that amount. And we've done a lot of damage with it, in fairness. We've kind of, if you go to Build Digital, we've created gap analysis tool, templates, project information standards, assessor tools, workflows, information management. We're a really good industry, and we should be quite proud of ourselves. We're driving these processes on without limited resources, limited financial things, because we know it's a better way of doing work. The government, I suppose, are now driving it, but, the likes of your bigger organisations, your BAM, your CISC, your John Paul, they're, incredible, the work that they're doing. And so, they deserve a lot of credit. So, once again, these down here, that's the worry. The SMEs. And I don't think we're really fully addressing that, and it's going to be quite difficult, but we do need to get down into that space, and we need to figure out how that needs to be targeted. So to do that, we need more money, we need more resources, and we need more I suppose, when we look at the county councils now, there's 31, 32, I know there's probably more, but they all are going to be implementing information managers now, and in tandem with that, then the information manager will be responsible then probably for upskilling these county councils. That's not a simple task, ask Mary, that's and they need help, they need these kind of resources. Moving on to our second last one, which is looking at policy approaches. So again, it was kind of looking at where our government was, and where we were back in 2019 was 17 passive, and we had moved slightly into the assertive action. Okay, there has been a nice move, I believe, across to a more assertive approach, and that a lot of kind of play has to be given to the CSG. They came out with 7 different policy areas, which include the circular economy, digital construction, and MMC. The MMC aspect of stuff has, I suppose we're still trying to work out how they work together, how they're kind of complement each other. But we do have, let's say, a structured approach now in order to kind of drive these key initiatives within the country. Hey guys, these key initiatives within the company. So it's all quite interesting. Where we are, and in fairness, we did have COVID-19, we did have inflation issues, so there was a lot of kind of problems and kind of difficulties we had in that particular space. But with the Housing for All and MMC action plan, we're seeing a lot of policies now linked to digital construction, to MMC, the circular kind of economy, and the CSG, in fairness, have they've done a kind of a good drive in this particular area. I see I'm done. I'll finish up now.
I think you've one more, have you?
Yeah, I've one more quickly.
Yeah.
Once again, this is our last one, and it's looking at then who's actually leading the space. Last time, the education institutions of 2017 were the ones driving this particular area. In fairness, policy makers, they've come back in line and taken maybe over that, but the education institutions are still doing a lot of work. What I'm seeing myself is there's probably more of a call for micro-credentials, more snappy upskilling kind of stuff. That's what people seem to be going for, so we need to react to that. Very importantly, the education institutions and the sectors have to understand now that the BIM coordinator, BIM manager are all on the critical skills gap list. So we need to address that, because everything that's fabulous here won't have a chance of happening unless we get people on the ground. So we need to kind of come up with ideas for that. Technology players, if you've seen Jonathan's presentation, they're still driving on. And our community practice have died a lot. So we've lost a lot of communities and practices. What we have now is the likes of our BIM heroes and a few others, but we do need to start to develop them forward. And our industry organisations are obviously continuing to publish. So what I would do, guys, is I'd ask you to read the paper, because I have all these resources documented. The paper was done in such a way to give you a link to all of these resources, to access them, to download them, to view them, and to kind of to build digitally into the portals and to kind of go forward from there. So just finish quite quickly. Ireland has steadily improved BIM maturity over 6 years. Mandate, education, institute collaboration, accelerate BIM adoption. A lot of challenges: fragmented practices, limited behavioural changes. So we haven't really looked at the behavioural changes, the workflows, and we need to look at that as part of the, this mandate. And we have a serious shortage of BIM professionals and SMEs that consider these issues. So SMEs and very much labour shortage. And we need to look at reinstating our communities. So yeah, that's just kind of, I'll just jump off here, guys, because I know we have a madness of what Alan has given us of 10 minutes to try and get this in, but I'll put it back to the paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barry. Barry is doing a wonderful